My name is Kabelo Mabalani. At the age of 19, I was a rock star. I had it all, including drugs and alcohol. But you don't have to be a rock star to get addicted. Drug and alcohol abuse is destroying countless lives and communities. Users are desperate for help. They want self-respect. They want to lead normal lives again. They want to kick it. Drug addiction is tragic enough in itself. But when it leads to the ultimate tragedy, death, it affects not only the user, but everyone near and dear to them.
Well, when Stephen went missing, he'd phone my mother every second day or so, just to let her know that even though he's on the streets, that he's okay. And after the second day, he didn't phone us. So basically, we just reported him as missing. We posted on Facebook. From there, Facebook, people started getting involved, a lot of people in the area and also nationally. There were private investigators looking for him. We had police searching for him.
It was a bit chaotic, I'm not gonna lie. She had lots of sleepless nights. She was constantly on social media and trying to track him down, phone calls. She literally sat on the bed with a phone, phoning numerous places just to try and get a lead of where he could have gone, because he just vanished.
It was crazy, we couldn't eat, we couldn't sleep. All we could think about is my brother and where he could be. There were so many things going through our mind, and people would see me in the shopping centres and I would be like a zombie. They wouldn't even recognise me, I don't even recognise them.
The first couple of days I thought, it's Stephen, he does that thing. He does the disappearing act. And, then phone calls started coming through and we tried to phone the police and the bus station, trying to get information of where he could have gone.
I was on the phone the whole day with the cops, with the private investigators. We were trying so hard to find him. So it was very exhausting and it was a terrible time for me and my family. Stephen was very introverted. He was very to himself. He was a bit of a loner most of his life growing up. And even in his, when he was on the streets and that, he tended to be very introverted, very to himself. I didn't grow up with Stephen in the same household. I lived with my grandparents and at one point with my aunts. But we have a younger brother. His name is Dylan, and Stephen and him were closer than what I was because I didn't grow up in the same household. They had each other's back. Basically, Dylan was the only one that was truly there for him growing up in that household. And I think Stephen trusted him a lot. He was like his crutch. Because Stephen was a loner, I think after Dylan's death, he took it very hard.
Cancer took young Dylan's life. It was too much for Stephen to bear.
I think it was around 12, 13 when he started experimenting. Obviously, not the hectic stuff, but towards the end he was experimenting with heroin because I don't think the other stuff was working for him anymore. Him and my stepfather not getting along. There was times where he'd run away from the house or he'd been chased away from the house. And then the only place he'd go to is the streets because the family wouldn't take him in. They all had like this rejection towards him because of his addiction.
There were times that Michelle would also get upset. We would help him and try and get him on the right track and just derail. And I mean, many times that I've given him some of my clothes and shoes, and comes back the next week and he'll have nothing, absolutely nothing, because we'll all be sold.
It was on Christmas Day actually, and I wanted him just to come home, and I just wanted him to be part of our family again and come off the streets. And it was a horrible, horrible experience to be able to, I felt like such a dog actually, to give him such a present. For him to be in that situation, living there, it was very heartbreaking. He was very grateful, but you could see he was very broken. Many days I found my mom crying, and it was very frustrating for her, very painful to see her son go through that. We tried numerous times to assist him and to try and help him.
He stayed on the streets, and just often he would come to our house, knocking on the door, can you bath, and we would always let him. Couldn't provide a place to stay because there were kids in the house. There were a couple of times we'd do the stuff in our bathroom and in the car, and just leave everything out. Maybe because he forgets about it and is on such a high that he doesn't comprehend what he's actually doing. And it did make me angry at the time, because like I said, there were kids in the house. And that's not really the example that you want to set for your kids.
I think when I met him, I saw him as an innocent person because he didn't really fit the drug scene for me. He was like a really sweet guy, and I think we just started chatting. I can't even remember about what, but we were friends for about 4 years, and he was like a little brother to me, and I think he saw me as a bigger sister. We also used to spike each other. If I can't find a vein, he'll help me spike. If he can't find a vein, then I'll help him spike. It's not a healthy relationship, but that is, at the end of the day, the friendship we had.
When you're broken down so much and you've got nowhere to go, I don't think they believe in themselves enough to believe that they can get off the street. And with heroin, it's quite hectic because, with the withdrawals, it's hard for them. They've got the mental side, and then they've got, it's difficult for them to. I've tried a couple of times to convince him, but that was the life that he chose. He wanted, I don't say that's the life he chose or he wanted to, I just think he was so stuck in that life that he didn't know how to get himself free from it. Well, after a year of being in the streets of Brakpan, Stephen came to us one day and asked us for help. He just couldn't, he knew he was either going to live or die. And then we managed to get him into a rehab in Middelburg, where he went he was there for 3 months. And it's there that his whole life transformed. It was a pastor that took care of Stephen and counseled him, and that's where he found God, and he was able to recover.
He looked terrible. I did. He was worn out, and you could see it in his face, like he was hopeless. He had no direction.
I was working for a company, and I was quite a successful user at that stage, a manageable user. And then it deteriorated to working into strip clubs, and then it went to prostitution, and living on the streets, actually living with the dealers in the crack house, being from one crack house to another crack house. Eventually, you don't have stuff to sell anymore, and a dealer will give you the option of, "Wait, I've got an easy way for you to make money quickly." And then, once you go into heroin withdrawals, it's hectic. You'll do anything for drugs. I was using a hectic amount of drugs. I used to spike 4 bags at once, and I would have to use every half an hour to an hour. That is a lot of drugs, yes.
While Jean-Marie continued to overwhelm her body with heroin, Stephen was in rehab trying to turn his life around. But it didn't last.
The dealer phoned me and said, "Stephen is back." And I was like, "I don't believe you." He's like, "No, you have to get here right now. I think he's overdosing." So I got there, and Stephen was laying on the bed with the Bible and the syringe in the other arm. And I slapped him a few times, and he opened his eyes, and he looked at me, and he just said my name, and I said, "Okay, cool, he's just very out of it." And I left him there, and I came back the next morning. Okay, as soon as I walked in, he started crying, and he just held me, and then he told me about the place he went to and the girl he met there. and how they mistreated him, and it was horrible, and he had to get out of there, and they put him on a bus on somebody else's name, and then he came through to Springs. I had a sugar daddy, and my sugar daddy was very demanding. I actually can't call it, I think he was more of a psycho, because he sort of kept me in addiction, but at the same time he was telling me addiction is not correct, you know. So he had a lot of demands, and I said to him, Stephen is not okay. And he said, yes, but if you do not come with me tonight, then I will never help you again. And for somebody in addiction to hear that, it's scary. This man is providing a lot of my needs at this stage. And Stephen looked at me and he said to me, do not leave me. Please do not leave me. Something is going to go wrong. Came back the next morning and all his stuff was gone, and he had a whole bunch of bags of clothing and stuff, and his Bible was very important to him. He kept it next to him the whole time. His Bible was very important. And I said to the dealer, where is Stephen? He said he took all his bags, picked it up and walked out of here and said he's going to his mom. And I already then had a feeling something is up.
I was driving around the streets, we were going through all the homeless people. A lot of people in the street said they saw Stephen, they saw him here, saw him there, but it wasn't Stephen. And so we were driving up and down, and there was a family, a mother, she was also, one of her children's also on the streets, and she said that that same day she saw John Marie and Stephen together. And I didn't know who Jean-Marie was. She just said it was this prostitute. This is her description, and you'll find her at the Brakpan Dam. So I was driving around the Brakpan Dam trying to find her, and up and down the streets, and very close to the spa area, I saw this lady with a description, and I stopped next to her and I said to her, are you Mary Jane? Because that was her street name. And she said to me, yes.
I didn't work under my real name. I had a street name, Mary. So she said, are you Mary? And I said, yes. And she said, my brother used to spend time with you. I'm looking for him. And I got into the car with her immediately because I already had the feeling before something was going on. Got into the car and we started driving around. And I said, okay, let's go check in Benoni. Because I know all the drug areas.
And at that time, Jean-Marie didn't know what had happened to Stephen. So she took me to a couple of places in Kempton and Benoni and all over to try, and we were trying to find him and see, you know, other drug houses where he could have been in Boksburg, but we couldn't find him anywhere.
On that day, Michelle's battery was flat in the morning, and she got stuck on the side of the road or something, and her battery had died. And one of her mutual friends on Facebook that they've been in communication with actually got hold of my number, and she phoned me. And then she said, no, they found a body in, an unidentified body in Springs mortuary. I
was at work, and I was going to go see one of my clients, and my husband actually phoned me and said to me that he wanted to see me. And I was coming to the office. He wanted to speak to me about something, and I immediately knew something was wrong. When I got to the office, my whole family was standing, well, not my whole family, some of my family was standing there. When I saw Shane, he looked at me and said to me, I found your brother, but I found him in the mortuary, and I'm sorry. I lost it. I broke down. I was screaming. I was crying. Right over here, his body was laying over here, and then the police van was parked over here.
Tell me about the days leading up, or the moments leading up to you finding Stephen here. How did you arrive at this point?
You know what? Actually through a newspaper article, the Brakpan Herald, because we were looking for him everywhere, and the Brakpan Herald, we saw the address, and I came looking for the streets, and...
So you found out he was here through a newspaper article?
That's it. My friend was phoning, look, everybody was looking for him, and she decided to phone all the hospitals and all the mortuaries, and she phoned my husband because she couldn't phone me, just to go and identify him, because there was somebody, you know, meeting up his description. When he went to Middelburg, his whole life was transformed. We thought this is now, you know, the road to recovery. He's going to come right, and his life is going to change, and we finally found him the help that he needed. And yeah, to hear that news, it was just we were in denial. We couldn't believe.
So, you guys, you were privy to some CCTV footage.
Yes, what happened was when I came looking, I was trying to figure out, because I saw the picture and I was trying to figure out the people across the road here, they were the people that found him. So they saw me here and they came out and they told me about, it's either this house or the next one, I just have to double check. There was CCTV footage of a white vehicle stopping in front here.
Did you see this footage?
I did, I saw it. You can see the lights come on and then you can see the vehicle drive off.
It was a couple of days after me and Michelle were driving around, and she phoned on, I can't even remember whose phone she phoned, but she said to me, please meet me at the spa. I went to the spa, I met Michelle there. She said, get in, and I could see on her face something is up. And she said to me, they found him. And I said, okay. And she said, my husband went to the mortuary and confirmed it is Stephen. And I said to her, are you sure? Are you sure, sure? Please tell me you are sure. And she said, they took his bracelet. They took his bracelet to bring it back to her to show that they are sure. And I just burst out crying. And she said to me, do you want to go to where they found his body? And I said, yes.
She took it quite hard, you could see. She was shocked. And I still said to her, please, I would like you to come to the funeral. And I mean, we all wanted closure of what happened with Stephen. We wanted answers and also wanted her to be there because she was his friend. She couldn't go, yeah, she said she couldn't go.
Michelle actually offered me to go to rehab. She also said to me, it's not my fault. But, 100 people can tell you it's not your fault. You still have that guilt of what if I stayed? What if I handled something differently?
If I could have one more conversation with Stephen. I looked at his picture yesterday and it's actually the first time that I've put that picture out since this whole thing happened. I was hiding it and I put it out because, I needed to. And I looked at his picture yesterday and I said to him, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't there that day because he was supposed to come to me. I would have made it so much better. I'm sorry I let him down as a sister.
That was my ultimate rock bottom, is losing somebody so close to you and then seeing and everything that went with his death.
I think when you stand on the verge of death, you realize that you only have one choice left, and that is to choose life.
I walked to the public phone where me and Stephen used to hang out, and I picked it up and I sent a police call me to my dad from the public phone, and he phoned back immediately. And I said, look, you need to buy me a ticket, one-way ticket to Durban. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I was very close to death. I think another month on the streets and I would have definitely been dead.
Thanks to Stephen, Jean-Marie had decided to change her life. Now, the hard work would begin.
She was broken like everybody comes in broken. And yeah, she started gaining weight. She started flourishing. She started looking good. Her personality started to change. She started to become more human again.
I saw a broken person, a scared person, a person that was not knowing what to expect, but a person who wanted change in her life. There were times that were tough for her right at the beginning. There were that fight and flight reaction that we saw the first time around, but she persevered and pushed through.
A lot of people want to come out of it. I mean, me and Stephen were those people that wanted to come out. It's just sometimes it takes a serious thing to actually get you to that point.
Dealing with death is a process. Sometimes it requires counseling. It always requires going through predictable stages of grief, from denial through to acceptance. For Jean-Marie, fresh out of addiction, that process was even more complicated.
I had to confront her about Stephen. I do specialize in bereavement counseling, taking people through the grief procedure, and I felt that there was something that Jean-Marie was missing.
You have to go through all the phases of grief, and you will have them. But the key and the way that I coach somebody is to grieve, to be sad, to talk about the person as much as you want to talk about that person, and to realize the gravity of the situation. But at the end of the day, you have to move on, because if you don't move on, you will be carrying that for the rest of your life.
It's horrible to see somebody just like go backwards. And for me, it's also a learning curve, you know, going forward. If I one day have children, not to show them the right way, you know, this is what can happen. This is what I went through.
I think I can describe myself now as a loving person. I've got a lot of patience and I understand. I'm a life coach and spiritual counselor. Goes with life coaching.
One day on Facebook, she sent me a message and said to me, "I've been looking for you everywhere." And she told me her testimony. She told me that she's in Freedom Recovery Center and she gave her life to Christ and she's serving now and she's doing Bible school for 2 years. And I was so overjoyed, you know, to see how God can just turn somebody's life around. One day I went to church and it was like the pastor said something, and it was from there when I realized, you know, that's where just my healing journey started there. It's been a difficult 2 years, but you know, daily we're coping and daily we're healing, and it's getting better and it's getting better. Net vir die Here sê dankie vir ons voedsel, dankie vir die seëning, Here, dankie vir alles wat vir ons doen in ons lewe. Ons bid dit in Jesus' naam. Amen. Amen. Yet, with the Nigerians, I had to forgive them for leaving my brother there. I had to forgive myself for not being able to be there. I had to forgive my stepfather for his abuse that caused a lot of this. I had to forgive the lady from Hazy View that put him on a bus. You know, I had to go through all that emotions, and I had to forgive. Because if you don't forgive, you're stuck in that. You're entrapped.
Life without heroin is awesome. I went scared falling, scared jumping. I find other ways now to actually fulfill my life, and healthy ways. I can actually have healthy relationships with people. I can actually speak to a guy or to a person, and I know that they have pure motives. I don't see myself as that prostitute anymore.
This is not something that you can go through by yourself. You're going to need someone or something to help you through this. And, you know, my faith in Jesus has helped me throughout my whole life.
I love the people I work with. I love working with broken people and seeing them transform into new people and how they can help others.
With my brother Dylan, I've got a cancer project where we help kids with cancer. And also with Stephen, I believe if this can save one person or heal one person or change one life, it is worth it.